He was in Afghanistan when his wife got pregnant. 13 months, no leave, no visits home, just sand, gunfire, and a phone call once a week. When he came back, there was a 3-month-old baby waiting for him. His wife said it was a miracle. He said it was impossible. And somewhere between the two, the truth was waiting. For years, Lauren Lake has presided over moments families fear and need the most. Calm presence, firm voice. In her courtroom, truth doesn't entertain, it decides. And today, a veteran who survived a war would face something no training prepared him for. The betrayal that happened while he was defending his country. The courtroom was silent. Too silent. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres sat on one side of the room, shoulders back, jaw set, eyes forward, military posture even in civilian clothes. Across from him sat Jessica Torres, his wife of 6 years, hands folded, head down. She wouldn't look at him, and between them, on the judge's desk, one envelope. Inside it, the answer to a question that had been destroying him for 8 months. The judge looked at Michael. Staff Sergeant Torres, you've petitioned this court for a DNA test regarding your 8-month-old daughter, Emma. You were deployed to Afghanistan for 13 months. You left in January and returned in February of the following year. Your daughter was born in November, 3 months before you came home. Can you tell this court why you're here today? Michael's voice was controlled, flat, the voice of a man who'd learned to compartmentalize. Because the math doesn't work, Your Honor. I was gone for 13 months. My daughter was born 10 months after I left, and there's no way I'm her biological father. Did you have any contact with your wife during your deployment? Phone calls, video calls when I could get service, but I never came home. Not once. Were you granted leave at any point? No, ma'am. My unit was in active combat. There was no leave. The courtroom stirred. People shifted in their seats. Someone whispered. The judge turned to Jessica. Mrs. Torres, your husband was deployed to Afghanistan for 13 months. He says he never came home during that time. Is that accurate? Jessica's voice was quiet. Yes. And you gave birth to Emma 10 months after he left? Yes. Mrs. Torres, how do you explain that? Silence. Mrs. Torres, I need an answer. Jessica looked up. Her eyes were red. I was lonely. I was scared. I didn't know if he was coming back. That's not what I asked. How do you explain being pregnant with a child when your husband was on the other side of the world? Jessica's voice broke. Because I made a mistake. The courtroom erupted. Michael's hands gripped the edge of the table. His knuckles went white, but he didn't speak, didn't move, just stared straight ahead like he was back in the desert, taking fire, refusing to break. The judge raised her hand for silence. Mrs. Torres, are you saying you were intimate with someone else while your husband was deployed? Yes. Who? Jessica closed her eyes. His name is David. He was a friend, someone I knew from work. He was there when Michael left, and I was falling apart. How long did this relationship last? About 2 months. And were you using protection? Sometimes. Did you tell Mr. Torres about this relationship when he came home? No. Why not? Because I was ashamed. Because I wanted it to go away. Because I thought if I just loved Emma enough, it wouldn't matter who her father was. Michael spoke for the first time since sitting down. His voice was cold, hard, but it does matter. Jessica turned to him, tears streaming. Michael, please, don't, he said. Don't say my name like that. Not after what you did. The judge intervened. Mr. Torres, I understand your anger, but I need you to let me ask the questions. Michael nodded once. Didn't apologize. The judge looked at Jessica. Mrs. Torres, when you found out you were pregnant, did you know who the father was? I thought it was Michael. How could you think that if he was deployed? Because I wanted it to be him. Because the alternative was too horrible to accept. But you knew it was possible that David was the father. Jessica hesitated. Then, quietly, yes. And you never told your husband? No. Even when he came home and held that baby? Even when he bonded with her? Even when he started loving her as his daughter? Jessica was sobbing now. I know. I know what I did. I know it's unforgivable. Michael's jaw tightened. He looked at the ceiling, took a breath, then looked back down at the table. The judge turned to him. Staff Sergeant Torres, when did you first start suspecting Emma wasn't yours? About 2 months after I got home. Emma started looking less like me and more like someone else. Can you elaborate? Her eyes, her skin tone, the shape of her face. Nothing looked like my family. Nothing looked like Jessica's family either. What did you do? I asked Jessica if there was any chance the baby wasn't mine. She said I was being paranoid, that deployment had messed with my head, that I was seeing things that weren't there. Did you believe her? I wanted to. I just spent 13 months in hell. I didn't want to come home to more hell, so I tried to ignore it. But you couldn't. No, ma'am, because every time I looked at that baby, I saw a lie, and I couldn't live with it anymore. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Torres, when your husband confronted you about his suspicions, why didn't you tell him the truth then? Jessica's voice was barely audible. Because I was scared. Because I thought if I admitted it, I'd lose everything. You were already lying to him. What's the difference? The difference is hope. As long as he didn't know for sure, there was still a chance we could make it work. But that hope was built on a lie. I know. The judge shook her head slowly. Mrs. Torres, your husband was deployed to a war zone. He was risking his life. And while he was gone, you betrayed him in the worst possible way. Jessica didn't respond, just cried. The judge looked at Michael. Staff Sergeant, I want to ask you something. You've been raising Emma for 8 months. Do you love her? Michael's voice cracked, just slightly. I've tried not to. I've tried to keep my distance. But she's a baby. She didn't ask for any of this. So yeah, I love her. And if this test comes back and you're not her biological father, what happens? Michael was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. That's why I'm here. Because I need to know the truth before I can make any decisions. Would you stay in her life? I don't know. Jessica's head snapped up. Michael, you can't. I can, he said, voice hard. I can do whatever I need to do to survive this. Just like I did in Afghanistan. Just like I've been doing since I got home. Judge spoke carefully. Mrs. Torres, the man you had an affair with. David, does he know about Emma? Yes. And what does he think? He said if she's his, he wants to be involved. And you're okay with that. I don't know what I'm okay with anymore. The judge turned to the back of the room. Mr. David Sullivan is here today. He's agreed to DNA testing as well. Mr. Sullivan, please stand. A man in the back row stood. Mid-30s, uncomfortable in a suit. He looked at Jessica. She looked away. He looked at Michael. Michael stared back, unblinking until David looked down. Mr. Sullivan, please come forward. David walked to the front and sat down. Didn't make eye contact with anyone. Mr. Sullivan, you had a relationship with Mrs. Torres while her husband was deployed, is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. How did that relationship start? We worked together. She was having a hard time. I was going through a divorce. We started talking. Then it became more. Did you know she was married to a deployed soldier? David hesitated. Yes. And you pursued a relationship with her anyway. I'm not proud of it. That's not what I asked. Yes, I did. The judge's voice sharpened. Mr. Sullivan, do you understand what you did? This man was in a combat zone, risking his life, and you were sleeping with his wife. David's voice was quiet. I know. I'm sorry. Michael laughed. It was a bitter sound. Sorry. He's sorry. The judge raised a hand. Staff Sergeant Torres. Michael went quiet, but his eyes never left David. The judge picked up the envelope. We conducted DNA testing on Emma Torres, Staff Sergeant Michael Torres, and Mr. David Sullivan. These results will determine who Emma's biological father is. She opened it. Read it silently. Her face didn't change. Then she looked up. In the matter of Emma Torres regarding paternity, she paused. Looked at Michael. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres. According to these DNA results, you are excluded as the biological father. Michael closed his eyes. His head dropped back. He stared at the ceiling. Didn't move. Jessica sobbed into her hands. The judge continued. Mr. David Sullivan, according to these DNA results, you are the biological father of Emma Torres. David's face went white. He put both hands flat on the table. Oh God. The room was completely still. Michael finally moved. He stood. Slowly, looked at Jessica. I want a divorce. Michael, please. I want a divorce. And I want you out of my house. It's our house. No, he said, voice like ice. I paid for that house, with deployment pay, while I was in Afghanistan. While you were with him, he pointed at David. So you're going to leave. And you're going to take her with you, because I can't look at either of you anymore. The judge spoke gently. Staff Sergeant Torres, I know you're hurt. But we need to discuss. What? Michael turned to her. What do we need to discuss? She lied. He's the father. I'm not. What else is there? Emma. There's Emma. Michael's face crumpled. Just for a second. Then he pulled it back together. She's not my responsibility anymore. You've been her father for 8 months. I was lied to for 8 months. That doesn't change the bond you formed with her. Yes, Michael said quietly. It does. He turned and walked toward the door. Jessica called after him. He didn't stop. The bailiff opened the door and Michael walked through it. Back straight. Head up. moving like a soldier, because that's what he was. And soldiers don't break. Not where people can see. The judge turned to David. Mr. Sullivan, you are now legally recognized as Emma's biological father. That comes with rights and responsibilities. David nodded slowly. I understand. Do you want to be in her life? I do. The judge looked at Jessica. Mrs. Torres, your husband is filing for divorce. You're going to have to figure out custody arrangements with Mr. Sullivan, and you're going to have to live with what you've done. Jessica was still crying. I know. I hope you do, because that man survived a war, and you destroyed him anyway. Court was adjourned. People filed out slowly. David sat alone for a long time, staring at his hands, realizing he was a father to a baby he'd never held. Jessica left through a side door, avoiding everyone's eyes, and Michael got in his truck and drove. Didn't know where he was going, didn't care, just needed to move, because if he stopped, he'd have to think, and if he thought, he'd have to feel. And he wasn't ready for that yet. In the weeks that followed, Michael filed for divorce. Jessica moved in with her mother. David started supervised visitation with Emma. The baby cried every time, asked for data, meaning Michael. But Michael never came, because he'd learned in Afghanistan that sometimes the only way to survive is to shut down, to compartmentalize, to lock away the things that hurt too much to carry. For years, Lauren Lake has presided over moments families fear and need the most, but some betrayals cut deeper than others. A man served his country, risked his life, came home expecting his family, and found out everything he'd been fighting for was built on a lie. There's no DNA test that can fix that, no court order that can make it right. Just a veteran, a baby who'll never understand why her daddy left, and a truth that destroyed them both. Michael went to therapy eventually. The VA recommended it. PTSD, they said. But it wasn't Afghanistan that haunted him at night. It was the sound of Emma crying for him. The way she used to grab his finger. The way she smiled when he walked in the room. He'd survived IEDs and firefights. He'd watched friends die. But none of that prepared him for the moment he had to choose between his pride and a child who loved him. He chose his pride. And some nights, lying awake in an empty house, he wondered if he'd made the wrong call. But the anger was still there. The betrayal was still there. And he didn't know how to forgive something that deep. So he didn't. He just kept moving forward. Because that's what soldiers do.